You're selling an electron flow here? Why in the world turn out a cell phone that isn't a cell phone, that doesn't do a great job as a phone, but is so freaking gorgeous, aesthetically gorgeous and ridiculous? What kind of artist do you think you are, Steve? Why don't you relate to the people? Why don't you copycat the thing that sold yesterday? Steve Jobs knows better than to do that. He knows to go with his flow. And that's something that I think is an obligation of all of us. I mean, a normal worker. I was very disturbed at one point because people coming over to the house were giving me the impression that they were telling kids who work at McDonald's, when you go to McDonald's, realize you are being exploited. Every minute of the day that you spend at McDonald's, resent the exploitation. Resent the exploitation. First of all, hamburgers were things that when I grew up in the 1950s, we couldn't afford, period. Kids couldn't afford these things. And if you have 150 people walk into you during the day, that's 150 opportunities for human interaction. And if you simply smile at those people and try to get a little bit of their life and make their life a little bit better, when you go home at the end of the day, if you spent the entire life feeling that you're exploited and oppressed, you spent the entire day scowling at 150 people. And you impoverished their lives a little bit. You stole from them. Only in a tiny way, but you stole from them. It was theft. If you'd only opened up with warmth to them and recognized who they are for that brief instant of interaction, when you get home at the end of the day, you won't feel empty. You won't feel enemy. What are they called again? Alienation. You won't feel the void. You'll feel satisfied because you've done something of significance for other people's lives. So capitalism isn't just a matter, and the Western system isn't just a matter of a system that's there that we can't affect. It can be affected very powerfully by the way we perceive what we're doing and by the quality of the human interactions that we perform.
It is an age-old contrast, and I know where you're going to come down on it.
Yeah.
The age-old contrast between, we make people feel good.
Yeah.
They come into, I'm not going to put down McDonald's, it's successful all around the world,
right.
But there's certainly those people who would claim, yeah, because they're selling products that are not very healthy.
Right.
So there's the age-old system of making you feel good,
right.
Smiling, as opposed to another strong tradition that exists in the West also, that feeling good is not the aim of life. The aim of life is perhaps being tested and feeling the problematic nature of life and perhaps evolving in some way that is different. And I would combine that. I'd like you to speak about the issue of trying to sell, trying to find out what you're going to sell and make people feel good, as against that whole other Western tradition and Eastern tradition, especially in the religious tradition, which you do talk about to some extent, where, well, you're not supposed to disseminate information too easily. You're not supposed to teach too easily. Information should be coded, should be sort of hermetic and hidden, so that people have to go and search it out for themselves because they get a hint, and then they are driven to learn. And just as in the greatest universities, you'll be told, I was told in Brown years ago, well, we don't teach you, we teach you how to learn. We teach you how to find out for yourself rather than just taking pre-digested information. Now, to a certain extent, I worry that you are promoting feel-good, pre-digested information as opposed to the strain and stress of a difficult life that stays difficult, and certain people then rise to the top in a rather different way.
Well, Richard, one of the reasons I love you, aside from the fact that you've been very, very good to me, is that you seek the areas of the greatest difficulty, and you seek the areas of the greatest pain, and you seek the areas of the greatest uncertainty, and you invite those things to take you over, which is a difficult, very difficult thing to do. I mean, that's sacrificing yourself in a very major way, because you know that those are the areas that somehow produce your creativity. And your art is based on finding a discomfort zone for your audience, finding some way of taking elements that they deal with every day, letters of the alphabet.
Which people are frightened of, because there are a lot of factors in the society that say, oh, run away from that.
Right, and your art is based on creating a profound sense of discomfort. And it's based on something else. When I saw your opera with John Zorn, I had been, once upon a time when I edited a literary magazine and I turned it into an experimental graphics magazine, one of the projects that I wanted to do was a sort of photographically based comic book, which Michael Sullivan, who's in the back of the room, actually implemented. And I wanted the script to be something that moved you extraordinarily powerfully in ways that you could not articulate in words at all. So you have something had been powerfully affected inside of you, but it roiled you because you couldn't understand it. You didn't know where it was coming from. Guess who managed to achieve that kind of art? I didn't in my literary magazine, or at least I didn't feel I did. You achieved it. So when I saw your work for the first time, I was stunned. And when I walked out of the John Zorn Opera, that's the way I felt. Down here, below the diaphragm, something had been very, very, very powerfully moved in me, and this didn't know what it was. Now, what does this have to do with Western civilization and the genius of the beast, and your question?
Not only with Western civilization,
yeah,
but with the capitalistic organizations that you are speaking to
right
now and trying to sell this program to.
No, I'm trying to sell the program, but I'm also, Western civilization is a system, and no element works on its own. And without the protest industry, corporate America would not be able to achieve what it's achieving. Without people like you and me, corporate America would have a more difficult time achieving what it's achieving. The Western system encourages all of these elements.
Could you just explain why they would have a more difficult time achieving it? What good do we do them?
This is a very good question. Okay. I spent 7 years after this experience and having people come over to the apartment and tell me Western civilization was about to die and it deserved to die. I spent 7 years figuring out what in the world Western civilization is and how it does what it does. And what I realized, and let's hope that it's a useful realization and that it grabs you, it certainly grabbed me, is that this cosmos is a very curious place. And this cosmos is an enormously creative venture. I mean, it started with nothing, and then it had a pinprick so much smaller than a pinprick that the comparison isn't even possible, that came into existence from nothing, and suddenly a massive manifold of space and time came from nowhere, and then precipitating like raindrops from a cloud came the first quarks. Well, these are incredible inventions. How did, first of all, something come from nothing? What the hell was space and time, and where in the world did it come from? Why in the world did quarks come precipitating? I mean, these were really the first things. Matter come precipitating from a sheet of space and time. What is all this about? This is a cosmos that's created more things in 10 to the minus 30 seconds of a second than any of us as individual human beings will create in all of our lives, no matter how hard you and I try, and we really do. It is a strange place. And one question is, how does the cosmos create? But another question is, what does the cosmos use us for? I mean, you've seen me do this, I think, exercise in the bedroom, where I made you, here, try this. Bear with me. Just try poking your left finger through your right hand. Did it go through? Didn't go through? Oh my God. Then the experiment is a failure. No. The next question is, are you less than 100 years old? Anybody here over 100? No, I don't see any hands. Okay, I saw one hand from a person who's 32. At any rate, he was lying. But the point is, how old is the stuff that kept your finger from going through your palm? Do you have any idea?
Year.
It's protons. And how old are those protons? They're 13.73 billion years old. So you are the most ornate form of social experiment protons have ever instrumented. You are protons, you and I are protons' way of dreaming. Because the cosmos never had dreams until roughly somewhere between 2.5 million, well, dogs dream. So it could be as far as 200 million years ago. But we and dogs are the cosmos way of dreaming. We're the cosmos way of coming up with consciousness. We're the cosmos way of coming up with a moral sensibility. We're the cosmos way of trying to transcend herself. But look at this cosmos. She's been transcending herself ever since the very